Good afternoon, grade 12s, class of 2022. Welcome to the section of tips and tricks for P1. Let me first introduce myself. I am Sello, the acting coordinator for CAT and IT. Today we are here to share the tips with you as we are writing the paper tomorrow. And I hope all of you are ready, you are settled, you know what to do tomorrow, because tomorrow we're all going to start as our subject is starting tomorrow. First of all, I'm going to start now with the general guidelines and the strategies for P1. Now, in general guidelines, I would like you not to forget your tools and documents. When we're talking now about the tools and documents, we mean your pencil, your pen, your ID, and your entry document. Actually, all these tools, you must pack them a night before you go to the examination room. And please, grade 12s, be on time and don't be late. And once you get to the venue, your invigilator will run through everything before you get the paper, for instance, to log in the PC and where you can get your data folder. And once you receive the paper, compare all the files from the data folder that they're exactly the same as from the question paper, because if you can start now with your question 1 and then you go to all the question and along now the way you see that no, there's a file that I'm missing, is going to waste your time. So immediately once you receive the paper, you must compare the data folder that it is exactly the same as the question paper. Your invigilator will read all the necessary instructions to you, and this is very important. Remember now you are a candidate. So to each and every question paper, you must insert your examination number. But usually you are going to get the instruction before you can get to the next question that you must insert your examination number. You don't want to see your name. No. Now you are a candidate here. We are working now with the examination number. Answer all the questions. This is very important. As you'll be working from one question to the next question, try to move so that you can work from question 1 up to the last question, your question 7. Because if you can waste a lot of time of not getting to the another questions, then it means now you are in a position to forfeit even the marks that we're going to get in another question. Do not do more than is required by the question. I know, sometimes you are so creative and want to show us how you know your content, how is your teacher being prepared for you for this particular content. But in this case, you have to do exactly what you're supposed to do. Don't do more than is required by the section. Ensure that you save each document using the file name given in the question paper. You cannot be creative in this case. You cannot want to save your file name with the name that you feel like I want to save it with this particular name. But you must follow the instructions. They're going to give you the file name, and then now you save the document with that particular file name. Save your work regularly as a precaution against possible power failure. I mean, we are aware now what is happening from time to time. We have the problem of the load shedding. So as we are making all the changes on your paper, please, my grade 12, save your work regularly. We still continue with the general guidelines. Your paper consists of 7 questions for 150 marks. Now, the key is you work on 1 mark per minute. In other words, 150 marks for 150 minutes. Now, when we get your question paper, you'll find we've got question 1 up to question 7. These marks is not exactly marks. It's just an estimation. They might change. Question 1, for instance, it might be 22 marks. Then it means you must work for 22 minutes. Question 2 is 23 marks. You must work for 23 minutes. Question 3, 25 marks. You must work for 25 minutes, and so forth. The reason is going to guide you whether you'll be in a position to finish all these question 7. But bearing in mind that you can even work for question 1 in less than a minute, especially when you know for where are you going to get your icons, particularly for word processing. This is not a cutting stone to say that if it is a 1 minute, 1 mark, then you have to work for 1 minute. You can even take lesser than the minute. Right. Now we continue now to the tips and tricks for P1. The first question or the first application that you are going to get from the question paper, it will be the word processing. Now, these are the tips that I want to emphasize to you when we get into the examination room. Start with the question that we are most comfortable with. For instance, we know ourselves. Some other people, they are very strong in database. Others, they are very strong in spreadsheet. Others, they are very strong in HTML. But it is very important that you can start with the question that you are most comfortable with, because once you start with that question, the question that you are most comfortable with, you will be in a position to work much faster, and it gives you the advantage, to go and finish the particular question and move to the next question. Follow the instructions always. This is very important. Don't want to be creative, because your creativity in this stage, honestly, is not going to give you marks. The only thing, your creativity is going to waste your time, and then now you cannot be able to proceed as fast as possible to the next question. So you must follow the instruction as it is. Your PC must be on your centimeters, not inches. As your invigilator will be showing you all your pieces, just make sure that your pieces, it is on centimeters. But this one, it is always on default. But just make sure that it is on centimeters, not on inches. You click on your file, you click on options, advanced, and then you scroll down there, and then now you go and select now your centimeter. Within that, you don't go out, and then now immediately you select your customized ribbon. So in your customized ribbon is going to help you to enable you to activate your developer tab, because once your developer tab it is activated, it's going to help you, especially when you come across with a question where now you are going to use your legacy tools, especially if there's a question that wants you to do the forms. And then now view your ruler, check your ruler box that it is activated. This is very important. You just click on view, and then now you select now that your ruler must be activated. Especially on MS Word, there are questions where now they're going to ask you to indent, but in this case there's going to be a screenshot where now you have to do exactly as it appears now in that screenshot, and must do it in a view, in a ruler, instead of going to the paragraphs. You must know exactly all your toolbars. For instance, your column, your watermarks, your links, your bookmarks, your footnote, and your endnote, because once you know your toolbar exactly where they are, this is going to save, again, your time. Instead of taking 1 minute to do a particular question, you can even take lesser minute, half a minute to complete that. Unlike you'll be going around the toolbar, you want to see, where can I get now my column? Where can I get my bookmark? But if you know exactly, if I want to do my watermark, I know exactly where should I click. If you are going to do the mail match from scratch, we always use the mail match wizard. And we have only 4 steps that are very important here. You start your mail match, you select the recipient, you insert the match field, and then you finish end match. This is very important. But yet again, in your mail match, remember, you have to follow the instruction. You can't just start it from the beginning. There might be the question that it says to you, you have to do it without starting from the beginning. Accuracy, my grade 12, is very important here. Accuracy will be taken into account. When the instruction says to you, change, it means change. Don't recreate. Otherwise, if you are going to recreate, it means now you are going to lose the mark, because now the question was saying to you, you must change. So accuracy is very important. That is why when I was starting to say here, don't be creative. At this stage, you don't have time for you to be creative, but you have to follow the instruction and work exactly as it's supposed to be done, and you save a lot of time for you to be able to move now to the next question. Those were the tips for them. Word processing tips. Right, we move now to the second application, that is a spreadsheet. I just want to share with you again the tips for the spreadsheet. I want to emphasize this more and more. Follow the instructions always. Don't want to be creative. Sometimes when we are there making your script, we'll be always asking ourselves, why this learner have to do this? This was not necessary for this learner to do this. Now he's wasting a lot of time and he couldn't get any marks for this. Okay, we see that She or he knows how to do this, but it's not going to help at the same time. So that is why we're saying you need to follow the instruction always. Answer all questions based on formatting. I cannot overemphasize this. I normally say to this, these are your low-hanging fruit marks in spreadsheet. To format your worksheet, for example, your wrap text, your width of the column, insert your logo as a background. Don't ignore this because these are your low-hanging fruit marks. And then now you move, every time that you are going to do your question, check the mark allocation. This is very important. Check the mark allocation. For example, you will find a question where we want you to do equals to sum and the range. And then you realize that instead of sum, and then now you type count. Ne? So you're going to lose mark for count, but you get a 1 mark for the range. So it's very important for you to check now the mark allocation, because the more you get 1, 3, 5 there and there, unlike you leave the question without attempting it, then it means you're going to lose again a lot of your marks. Right? I'm still going to emphasize the importance of checking the allocation marks. If you get a mark of 4 to 6 marks, this normally refers to a higher order question. For instance, your if function, your VLOOKUP, your text function. It means the mark allocation is the one that is going to guide you, whether this is the a high order question, for instance. Now, I normally advise my learners to say, don't type a function, because when you type a function, again, it wastes a lot of time. It is better for you to insert function button, because a function button, it gives you a structure, and then now you can even now be able to insert all the function within a lesser minute, unlike you'll be inserting now the function. Because sometimes you want to insert the function and then the computer, it doesn't want to take a column, it wants to take a semicolon and then erase, and then you want to do something correctly. It means now your time is going to be wasted. But I'm always advising my learners that you must use an insert function button for you to do the function. Again, accuracy here will be taken into account. Change means change, not create. You have your graph, and then the instruction says to you, change this in a particular graph, but you'll be surprised. There's some of the learners that they want to show us how creative they are, and then now they want to start to do the graph from the beginning. You are wasting your time. You are not going to get a mark for that. You will be penalized for that because you didn't follow the instruction. The instruction was saying to you, you must change, but not to recreate. So when we are marking, always, we are very, very strict about that you must follow the instructions. Otherwise, you are going to lose the marks. All right. And then now we continue again to the database tips. In your database tips, it's normally question 5 in your question paper. It's very important that you enable the content immediately when you are going to do your database. Again, I just want to follow this. I just want to emphasize this. You must follow the instruction. Don't be too creative, because this is not going to help you. Now, I normally say this, change the field properties is one of our long-hanging fruit marks. In your design view, that is the very first question that you are going to get in database, where you're supposed now to change the field properties. Don't take this for granted, because this is one of the marks that I know most of my learners, they get a lot of marks. So be careful about that. Work on your field properties. When we're talking now about the field properties, we mean your size. We mean your validation rule. We mean your validation text. We mean your required. We mean your input marks. So if you can know all of your field properties, and then you get those marks, you know at least there are marks that you are going to get. And then now you must familiarize yourself with the input marks code, which will be given to you in your examination paper. The input marks code, actually, my learners, it gives you a guidance. It helps you which letter that I must put as a compulsory letter, which letter must put as an optional letter, or which letter must be converted to lowercase or to uppercase. Please don't ignore this sheet that is coming with your question paper. Every time you do an input mask and you're just not sure how to do it, just consider this input marks sheet is going to help you. All right, and then now we move now to the form. I normally also emphasize that when we get a form, the form is one of the low-hanging fruit marks that you can get it easy for you. You can even do it in less than a minute. Now, if the instruction says to you, modify the form, modify means modify. Do not recreate. And in most of the cases, when we are going to do the form, they're just giving us a screenshot that your form must resemble the screenshot below. Now, that screenshot you must be very sure of how are you going to do it. If I can look at my screenshot, I see at the bottom there's a date. Then it means I must insert a date where? In a footer. And then I can see again there's a button, so it means I must insert a button here. My heading, it must be in lowercase and in bold. Take your time to read that screenshot. Is going to give you, is going to guide you how your form is going to look like at the end. So form is one of the marks that I know for sure that it is your low-hanging fruit. And then we go to query. Now, query, it is something very interesting for you to do. And I'm always wondering why other learners, they don't do it, because they give you multiple queries there. So even if the first one, it can be your low-hanging fruit, the first query, attempt to do it. And then the second one, we find that it is the one that has the calculation, and mostly the third one, it is your calculated field. But I'm telling you, in query is where now you can get a lot of marks. So you must be very careful again when you are doing the query. Now here's a tip of doing the query. Always critically look at your data view sheet before you start inserting criteria, and then you can go back again in your design view. The reason why we are saying you must critically look at your data view sheet, it is because sometimes they can say insert female or male as your criteria. And then now when you go to your data sheet, you can say, okay, did they write this female in full, or did they write male in full? Okay, no, it is only F and M. So it gives you again that, okay, when I go back to my design view, my criteria, I'm going to type only F and M. It is always advisable to do one criteria at a time. Sometimes we find that the question, it wants you to do two criteria in one query. But now in that case, it is always advisable to do one criteria at a time, and then you test it by going to your data sheet view to check if it is working, and then you go back to design view to do the second criteria. Don't do all those criteria at once, because once you want to do all those criteria at once and then the other one is not working, you become frustrated. You waste now the time. You want to correct the first criteria and then it does not work. So it is better for you to start doing the first criteria, test it, go back to the data sheet view to check whether it is working. If it is working, you go back again to your design view so that you can do now the second criteria. Right. It is always important in a query or in a database to understand the different attributes and their uses. Because if you don't understand these attributes, then it will be difficult for you, especially now where we have to do now the criteria in a query. For example, the question it might come says to you, display only the records of people born after 1990. We are just assuming again, that is a question that might come. And then you can do your greater sign, 1990/12 and 31. Don't worry about these parentheses, because Access, it will put those parentheses for you. But if they didn't put it for you, then we have to put it on your own. Right. Now we move to the calculated field. A calculated field, it allows you to create a new data in an existing data. A calculated field, it is a field that it is not there. Then it means you must insert this field on your own. Now, when you are going to create now this new field, just to type, for example, paid in a column without doing any calculation there, you get a mark for that. So you must not take for granted when you read that a question, it says, I must insert calculated field. How am I going to do this? No, I don't know how to do this. But just to insert or to create a new field, to get a 1 mark for that. And then now you move now to the next one. What must I do? Okay, I must now get to multiply the field number of test, multiply by the test field. You are still going to get a mark. But remember, the key is in calculated field, don't make a mistake. Don't forget your block brackets. Right, now we move now to the next tips and tricks of database, where now we are going to do your report. This is always important again. Follow the instructions always and don't want to be creative. Check the instruction where you need to insert your calculation. The instruction will tell you where you're supposed to insert your calculation. For instance, it must say to you, you must insert your calculation on report footer. Please, the grouping and the sorting, they must always be noted, because especially in report, the grouping and sorting is always, again, one of our low-hanging fruit. Don't leave without doing all those things. They are just in front of you. If the instruction says group. If the instruction sort. And I know, you know how to do that, because it's one of our low-hanging fruit. We move now to the next one, that is HTML. My grade 12 learners, I know this application, HTML, all of you like it. And for me, I can say it is low-hanging fruit of 20 marks. Because every time when I go to school and I'm teaching my learners, and when we do the HTML, and they know how to do it, within just a short space of time. So this is one of the applications that I know that most of the learners, they like to do it. But bear in mind that you may not use a word processing program such as Word to answer HTML question. Once you use this, in Marking Center, they don't even look at it. You just get your 0 as it is. So please be very careful about this one. We don't use word processing program such as Word to answer HTML question. The text sheet will be provided with the question paper. Now the text sheet again, it helps you, of which tag must I do. Okay, I want to insert now the image, and then in the image, IMG, SRC, and then sometimes you forget which one must I do. Just go to your text sheet, and then the text sheet will help you, of which tag that you're supposed to put it there. Know when to use each tag and familiarize yourself with the attributes that can be assigned to each tag. In your data there, you will see question numbers appears as comment, as coding to indicate where you should insert your answer. Please, my learners, do not delete those comments. Because once you delete those comments, it makes it difficult for the markers to mark your correct answer. Because now they have to go right through, the screen to want to check where is your answers. Those comments are there deliberately so that your answers can be visible enough, so that your tags can be visible enough when the markers are marking at the Marking Center. Right. Now, you will be using now your Notepad++, and then now you run it in a Chrome. Like I've indicated, this question is plus minus 20 marks and low-hanging fruit. Some of the learners, they get total 20 out of 20 when they're doing HTML. And others, if they didn't get that 20, at least they get 18 out of 20. So I know that one you are going to get it. Now, how are you going to do this now? You must have two screens at the same time. You have your screen of the Notepad and your screen again of your Chrome. As you are putting your tag in your Notepad, you insert the tag, you save, you refresh immediately so that you can see the changes in Chrome. So that is the tip that I want to give you. If the changes is not happening immediately in Chrome, and then you know there may be something wrong now with my text. As I'm about to finish now my tips and tricks and strategies for P1, I would like to take this opportunity for all class of 2022 You know, class of 2022, this is a cohort of 2020. You have shown courage, you have shown determination up to now, to be honest. So I just want to wish you the best of tomorrow's paper. Just get there and nail this paper, and I know you are going to do that. Be calm when you get into the classroom and do exactly what your teachers taught you what to do. Don't panic. If you know that you get your paper there, and then I want to start with my MS word processing, I do question 1 with your pencil. Second, question 1. You know that I'm done with question 1. You move to question 2. You do your question 2, and then once it is done, you tick again your question 2, and then you move to question 3. When you are in question 3, and then you realize that this is something that is most complicated for me, it's going to take a lot of time, you skip that one, go to the next one, move, and make sure that at the end of those 7 questions, at least you've got 30 minutes. That is going to take you back now to your question 1 in all the questions that we have skipped. The same as in spreadsheet. When you're doing the spreadsheet, we'll be starting with your formatting. That one, I mean, it's non-negotiable. We have to do it. You have to format your worksheet. And once we have done that, you move to the next one. Okay, this is a 2 mark. I can do this 2 mark. You mark your 2, and your 3.3 is 2 marks. I can mark my 3 point, and then I move. Okay, this is a VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP, again, it is not complicated, I must tell you. We can do a VLOOKUP for as long as you do it by inserting the button there. Then it's easy for you to do that VLOOKUP. So now, if you see that, okay, this some ifs, it wants to take me such a long time, let me skip it. You can skip it, and then you move to the next one. After every question, go back. You go back and then you check all those questions that you didn't do it, and then now calmly and then you try to do that. But the key is you must be able, to work from question 1 up to question 7. You must touch each and every question, because if you don't do that, you will never know. In question 7, there were a lot of marks for you that you can do that question 7. These were the tips for our P1 and tricks. All of the best for your papers tomorrow. Thank you.